Hey, how's it going? It's Game Webcam. So, I realized that I haven't really made a Roblox video on this channel in a while. I've really been focusing a lot more on Brick Hill content or Roblox knockoff content per se, and haven't been really focusing on Roblox itself. So I decided that I'm going to be making an analysis video on Roblox, and I'm going to be highlighting one of my true criticisms that I still have on the platform. In 2016, I've criticized Roblox for so many things, including YouTubers coming onto the platform for the first time, the removal of tickets, a lot of bad moves that I thought Roblox was doing on the behalf. Now, of course, a lot of these criticisms have cleared up when I came back to Roblox in 2018, because I realized that a lot of these criticisms that I made back then were very petty and childish. However, that isn't to say that the Roblox platform still doesn't face some problems today. One of the biggest issues with the Roblox platform today is the security. Roblox's security is so bad that even if you were to try and have your account on the maximum security settings, there is still a good chance that anybody who is dedicated enough will try and will successfully get into your Roblox account. And there's almost nothing you can do about it. And it has to do with the fact that Roblox does not take its security very seriously. Considering that Roblox has started from a very small business all the way to becoming a mega corporation, as it is still continually evolving as we are speaking, I feel like they definitely need to get some of their priorities straight. Security should always be of an utmost priority for any online business, considering that if you don't have good security of the users, it's definitely going to have effects on your business as a whole. But I'm going to be talking about Roblox in particular because for a major business, they don't really seem to be taking their security very seriously. I'm not saying that in general because I do think they take security seriously in some ways, but I don't think they take it seriously enough in others. So in this video, I'm going to be highlighting a few key security issues that I've noticed with Roblox. The thing about all these security issues that I'm going to be pointing out in this video is that these are all going to be fixable security issues. So I'm not going to be mentioning the constant exploiting that goes on in games or the constant bots that go around to spam links to scamming websites and all that sort of crap, because I'm fully aware that Roblox is trying their best to combat these problems, and there's no quick one easy solution for those problems. So I'm not going to be talking about any of those security issues in this video. However, all of these security issues that I'm going to be mentioning in this video should be fixable. For every security issue that I'm going to be raising in this video, I'm going to be offering a solution to it. I've tried my best to make sure that the solution that is offered in this video is at least doable by the corporation. I don't go for some outlandish solution that I don't think that even a company as big as Roblox is capable of doing. I tried my best to try and do these solutions so that way Roblox is fully capable of doing these solutions. So let's get started. You know Roblox's security is really bad when the security issues begin as early as signing up for an account. To make an account on Roblox, all you have to do is just supply your birthday, your username, and a password, and oh wait, that's all the 3 things that you need to do to make a Roblox account. It is way too easy to make an account on Roblox. Now, I understand that Roblox is trying to make it so easy to create an account so that way it makes this a convenience. When you take away a lot of the features that usually a whole lot of websites do in order to make you sign up for an account, you can start to see how creating an account becomes more of a problem than it is a convenience. Almost no verification is required at all to do most of the features that you need to do on the Roblox website. All you just need to do is just supply in those 3 fields and bam, you're done. Making an account is so easy that you can literally look up a YouTube video of people making an account in literally less than 10 seconds. It is so ridiculously easy to create a Roblox account. First off, when you make Roblox accounts so easy to make, it kind of makes account bans and terminations pointless. Because if you just get banned or terminated for whatever reason, you could just simply make another account in literally less than a minute. And bam, you will have already circumvented what you were previously banned for, which I think kind of makes a ban or termination pointless in the first place. I would be wrong to say that Roblox account creation didn't have any security at all, but the security methods that they have is very minimal and obviously doesn't look good for them. The only method of security that is available at Roblox account creation is a CAPTCHA. And the reason why this could be a huge problem is because CAPTCHAs are only a short-term solution. It doesn't take too long before people figure out how a CAPTCHA works and is able to figure out ways to work around it so that way they can automate the process, which is a huge contribution to why there might be a huge botting problem on the Roblox platform. Well, the solution to this problem is something that most websites are already doing. Simply require an email address to make a new Roblox account. Just simply requiring an email address to make a Roblox account can already cut down on spam accounts and reduce ban evasions. If you hold a blacklist on emails, it definitely makes sure that people cannot just simply create another account after their account just got terminated. And you have to keep in mind, this is the internet after all. Everybody should have an email address. The only types of people who don't have an email address are those who are under the age of 13 or those who are brand new to the internet. If you're brand new to the internet, just create an email account. It's actually not that hard to make. But for those who are actually under the age of 13, what they could do to create a Roblox account is instead of using an email address that they would make on their own, they could just simply consult their parents and use their parents' email address to make a Roblox account so that way they could play Roblox in the first place. Not only can this improve security, but it can also ensure that parents are properly monitoring what their kids are doing. But Roblox, if you are going to be adding an email address requirement for account creation, you just need to keep in mind of one thing. You need to make sure that you only accept email addresses of trusted domains, because you obviously don't want people to be bypassing the email requirement by just simply using a temporary or throwaway email. And if we really want to go the extra mile in terms of an account creation solution, we should probably be limiting some of the more advanced features of the website, whether it be rating a game, creating a group, uploading clothing, making game passes, all that sort of stuff. How about we hide that behind another verification? Well, of course, I'm talking about phone numbers. Now, requiring a phone number to do some of the more advanced tasks will heavily cut down on spam and bot accounts and help reduce ban evasions even further. It pretty much can solve the botting problem by a majority, because if you require a phone number for a lot of these tasks, it essentially makes it a lot easier to track down bot accounts, and it's also a lot easier to ban them in masses because it's not as easy to reproduce a phone number. But the huge problem with this issue is that not everybody has a phone number. Since everybody may not have a phone number, I could definitely see why the extra mile may fail here and probably will not be done at all by Roblox, because I just don't see how Roblox can expect everybody to have a phone number over just a simple gaming platform. So the next big issue that Roblox currently has lies in its two-factor authentication. So currently the only way that you can have two-factor authentication on your account is only through emails, which is incredibly weak and next to useless because a hacker could just simply break into your email and bypass the two-factor authentication that way. It's not that difficult, especially if you use the same password for your Roblox account as for your email address. Email addresses aren't even true two-factor authentication because the theory of passwords, right, is that you have three methods of security: something that you are, something that you have, and something that you know. The password is for something that you know. The phone, which is usually commonly associated with two-factor authentication, is something you have, and usually a third method of authentication is usually like a fingerprint, an iris scan, or something similar to that, which is a third factor of authentication. But long story short, an email is not really a true method of two-factor authentication. But of course, this has been an issue that has been raised a lot by the Roblox community, and Roblox is currently working on methods to improve their two-factor authentication. So of course, I'm gonna be skimming over this issue a little bit in this video, but I still think it would not be fair for me to not talk about this issue at all in the video. So I'm still gonna be talking about it, but I'm pretty sure Roblox is already working on a solution to this. And the solution for this one is pretty obvious. Just use dedicated authenticator apps, or if you want to go the extra mile, try to add support for physical keys, because unlike an email, these actually require things that you physically have. With an authenticator app, you need to have a phone in order to get those codes. With a physical key, well, it's a physical key. You have to get that key in order to log into your account that way. These are true methods of two-factor authentication. They are much more secure methods overall because you can't just simply break into them. You need to somehow acquire these devices in order to be able to break into the account. This solution is so easy to implement that Brick Hill, a Roblox clone that has less than 0.1% of the Roblox player base, a Roblox clone that small has proper two-factor authentication. So it pretty much should give you an idea of how easy this solution is to implement. It's just that Roblox is really not putting this as a high priority, which is really concerning. Because I'm pretty sure if Roblox were to be putting this as a high priority, this would have already been implemented by now, because this is something that is so easy to implement. I can't believe they have not already implemented this by now. Now, of course, I do want to make a quick note before ending off this section. Be sure to not use SMS or any other text-based two-factor authentication, because this could have possibly worked 5 years ago, but then we discovered that there is vulnerabilities with that because people can social engineer their way to rerouting your SIM card, which is called SIM switching, and essentially that makes it so that way they can receive the text instead of you, and essentially can break into your account that way. Now let's say you now are required to have an email address to make it an account, and you now have to use an authenticator app to have two-factor authentication. Well, that's great, but unfortunately, that's all for nothing when we have to talk about this one big security issue. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about the session cookies vulnerability. So if you didn't know, Roblox uses cookies to keep track of your session information, which is the RBX ID and the ROBLOX security cookies, which pretty much hold all of your session information. If you don't know how cookies work, these are locally stored on your computer. These cookie files, which hold sensitive information in regards to your session, is sent to the Roblox website for every web page you load, and basically tells the Roblox website, hey, it's this person that's logged in, so he obviously obviously should have that person's account featured. Now, here's the big issue with these cookies. If somebody manages to get a hold of these cookies, they can quickly get into your account because these cookies pretty much hold your session information. It's not like Roblox hasn't addressed this issue at all. Roblox has a few solutions to this, including some warnings on the cookies and the secure sign out option. However, these are pretty much sugar packet under the table solutions. Which, by the way, shout out to That 70s Show people who get that reference. If you don't know what I am saying by sugar packet under the table, these are pretty half-assed solutions that really only work in the short term, and they usually don't work in the long term. I have to give them credit. Roblox did address this issue initially, but this is the year 2021 now, and the solutions that Roblox has deployed a long time ago don't fly by anymore. Like I said earlier, cookies are stored client-side, which means that they can be grabbed through an XSS or a JavaScript attack, or you can accidentally visit a cookie logging website and they could just grab your cookies that way in order to get into your account. Now, of course, there are some precautionary measures that you can take to usually stop these scripts from working. Usually what you can do is you can download a browser extension like NoScript, which usually will stop JavaScript and any cross-site scripts from running at all and pretty much prevent hackers from being able to take your cookies that way. But of course, not everybody is willing to download a browser extension like NoScript, because NoScript is really for the strict privacy advocates. It can really have an impact on the user experience. So this is why this is not a feasible solution for most people. And as for the secure sign out option, you only have a short amount of time to do the secure sign out option before hackers can get full control of your account. Again, I consider this a sugar packet solution. I do not consider this to be an actual solution whatsoever. A new technology that has been in development for at least the past several years can actually solve this issue, and that is something called browser fingerprinting. Now, of course, this solution is pretty technical, so for those of you who are not very familiar with what browser fingerprinting is, I will give a quick explanation as to what it is. So, to make a browser fingerprint, it basically takes your browser information in regards to your network, your operating system, and your hardware. It takes all four of these components and it makes a unique fingerprint which can be used to easily identify you. Now, like a session cookie, browser fingerprints can be super complex because they are based on a lot of information in regards to your computer. And while browser fingerprints can be easily retrieved through JavaScript like cookies, they are super difficult to recreate because it would be nearly impossible for a hacker to recreate all the information that is needed to basically recreate somebody else's fingerprint. So I'm gonna be getting a list of all the things that goes into a browser fingerprint, because there are so many things that goes into a browser fingerprint that I can't list all of them off the top of my head. So I'm gonna be reading this from a list. So basically, if you were a hacker who tried to get into my account, you would basically have to recreate the following: my operating system, my browser version, my UTC version, my language settings,
my IP address, my MAC address, my system time zone, all of my system fonts, every browser plugin I use, all of my browser permissions, my audio devices, my recording devices, my monitor's width and height, my keyboard layout,
and most importantly, my HTML5 canvas. Yeah, that's a lot that goes into a browser fingerprint, and that's not naming everything that goes into a browser fingerprint. There is so much that goes into a browser fingerprint. It is super difficult to recreate everything to match somebody else's fingerprint, which is why a lot of banks tend to use this technology in order to detect fraud. So if it can work for any of your online banks, then I'm pretty sure it can work for Roblox and session information. This solution may be interesting, but it does raise a few concerns. The first problem is a double-edged sword, because browser fingerprinting is server-side, which is good because it is not like cookies where they are client-side, but this could be a problem because Roblox will need to invest into a service or their own servers in order to keep hold of browser fingerprints and the session information that comes with them. So, of course, this doesn't come without cost. This is definitely not something that can easily be done right away, but I definitely think that it is something that can still be accomplished. The second big issue is that browser fingerprinting tends to have a negative connotation with privacy advocates because of its association with targeted advertising. When you look up browser fingerprinting on Google, you'll see a lot of articles talking about how scary and how bad browser fingerprinting is. And that's usually because browser fingerprinting has been maliciously used a lot of the time for targeted advertising, because advertising is something that is incredibly powerful and usually is something that is incredibly profitable. So of course they're going to be willing to go for technologies that are hard to circumvent whatsoever in order to make sure that they can make the most profits. And a lot of browsers have actually been starting to implement protections in regards to browser fingerprinting. But of course, we're not using browser fingerprints for targeted advertising. We are simply using browser fingerprints in order to hold session information. That way it is not easily recreatable, yet still fairly unique. Now, of course, again, this one is a fairly loose solution. So if you do think you have a better solution for this one, please leave a comment down below and please explain why your solution would be better than my solutions. Let's say that we managed to fix the account creation problem, the two-factor authentication problem, and the session cookies problem. Well, there's still one big important problem that remains, and that is at ROBLOX Support. Now, hackers may not be able to get into your account through ROBLOX Support, but damage can still be done through ROBLOX Support. A big situation that has happened recently is that hackers pretended to be parents so that way they could try to terminate people's accounts. Now, fortunately, Roblox is very much aware of this situation, so if you try to do this with somebody's account, they will catch on that you are somebody who is not the actual parent, and they will not take any action whatsoever, and probably blacklist your email. But that doesn't stop any other methods from actually working. A good example is that hackers can pretend that the account that they want to terminate is actually hacked when in reality it really isn't. They pretend to be hacked by sending a ticket to ROBLOX Support, and this can result in one of two things. It can result in your two-factor authentication being completely disabled so someone can break in, or the second thing is that your account can get terminated because it is considered compromised. And here's the thing, that's just the biggest reason that I can name off of the top of my head. Somebody can cite any other bogus reason to try and get your account terminated. Another big example was the toy code situation, when somebody actually won a toy code from a YouTuber giveaway, but somebody managed to file a complaint to ROBLOX Support pretending that that toy code was stolen, and ROBLOX Support actually terminated that account because they thought that the toy code was stolen. Now, fortunately, this was reversed, but it really comes to show that people can be vicious and they will do anything to make sure that an account can either get terminated or they can gain access to the account themselves. Due to how terrible Roblox support can be in general, it can be really hard to reach out to them and fix your problems. For those who genuinely have these problems and want to get them solved, it can be really difficult for them to be able to get their problems fixed. And sometimes they might not even get their problems fixed at all because Roblox's support is not very responsive for the most part. And I would say out of all the issues that I am discussing in this video, this issue is probably going to be the hardest issue to tackle and fix. And when it comes to looking for a solution to Roblox support, there really isn't one solution, but there are steps that can be taken to help mitigate false cases and help make Roblox support a lot more responsive. If we were to do the account creation solution that I proposed earlier, we could have prevented the parent situation from ever happening because all that the worker really has to do is check that the person's email is tied to the Roblox account. If it is, then it's probably likely that this is an actual parent writing to support wanting to actually shut down the account. Again, I will give Roblox credit where it is due. They did acknowledge the problem pretty quickly and they managed to solve it pretty quickly, as this entire situation could have been prevented as something as simple as requiring an email address upon sign up. And that could also apply to a lot of other solutions. If we were to apply a lot of the other solutions that were given in this video, perhaps the Roblox support could be a lot more responsive. If parents were to be controlling the emails of every user that is under the age of 13, then spam mails could probably be significantly reduced because a kid would not know how to write a professional email as opposed to a parent. And with tighter security in general, less people will probably reach out to Roblox support to try and fix their issues. So of course, a lot less inquiries means that Roblox support has a lot less workload and essentially can make the entire system a lot faster. The last step that can be taken to help mitigate these issues is probably going to be the hardest one, and I'm pretty sure it's going to sound very cheesy and obvious, but I think it is something that is super important in general. Good communication with your support team. If there is a major security issue, you should be sure to communicate it with support as fast as possible to make sure that the least amount of people are affected by this problem. There are a few recent incidents that shows that this solution is currently being applied right now, but I feel like this should have been happening a lot faster, and I don't think it should have required a Roblox YouTuber to report on the situation in order for Roblox to start taking action against these sorts of problems. And of course, this may not 100% fix the problem, but I guarantee you it's going to fix a lot of the problems that are initially raised to begin with. Alright, so now we've addressed the what when it comes to Roblox security. Now I feel like we need to address the most important point in this video, and that is the why. Why should Roblox be taking all of this seriously? Security is a high priority for any online business in general, and Roblox is no exception. Roblox is a multi-million-dollar corporation, and I feel like as a multi-million-dollar corporation, security should be something that is utmost of their priorities. But that still isn't enough to make sure that their overall website is fully secure against hackers. If Roblox continues to not improve their security at all, this will hurt them as a brand, because no new developers, designers, or any dedicated players will want to join the platform if their security is going to be under constant jeopardy. I think a good analogy to this situation is, would you want to live in a really dodgy neighborhood where there is a good chance that your house can get broken into? Hi, this is VoiceOver Game Webcam here, so I'm going to be stepping in for a quick voiceover here because the analogy that I made in the original video completely sucks ass, and I really don't like the analogy that I made in this segment, so I'm going to be recording a more accurate analogy for this one. So imagine that you just signed up for a bank that is not known for having good priority of its security for its users. So you have, let's say, thousands of dollars in the bank, and you get your latest paycheck worth of a few $100s. Well, the bank that you recently just invested in does not have security as its highest priority, so the security of the bank is fairly okay, but even if you were to put yourself at the maximum security settings that your bank has to offer, there is still a good chance that somebody is able to break into your account and pose as you and be able to take however much money that they want and do it successfully. So who is at fault here? Is it you for trusting the bank in the first place, or is it the bank's fault for obviously not having security as its highest priority and obviously should be taking better measures to ensure the security of their users? And let's say that you are a person looking to open up a bank account. Would you trust this bank for its terrible security measures? And yes, for all of those law geeks who are concerned, yes, the Federal Reserve does insure up to $100,000 in case you do get your money stolen. However, this is Roblox. This is not an actual bank that has any federal protection whatsoever, but people can treat it as a bank because you can obviously buy Robux with your real money, and you can also cash Robux out for real money using the DevX program. So again, while this is not the best analogy that I can offer, it surely is a much better analogy than the one that I provided originally, because the original analogy just sucks so bad that I don't think anybody can really understand why this analogy would be able to connect to Roblox security. You can obviously think of Robux as a digital currency because it has real monetary value. If it were to not have any real monetary value in the first place, then the Roblox black market would not exist or would be nowhere near as big as it is in the first place. And this overall is another good reason of why Roblox should be taking their security a lot more seriously. Considering that Robux does have real monetary value, I think it is utterly important that people don't get their Robux easily stolen, because if it can get easily stolen, you can see how lucrative Robux can be and why a whole lot of black markets may focus on the Robux currency, considering of how insecure the currency is. Considering that Roblox has a huge player base of little kids who really don't know how to take the proper security measures to ensure that their accounts are the most protected, you can see how stealing a lot of Roblox accounts and being able to get thousands of Robux in general can be a very profitable operation. Okay, I'm just trailing off at this point, so that's the end of this voiceover. Wanted to get a better analogy and also cite another reason of why Roblox should be taking its security a lot more seriously. Now let's get back into the video. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if I were to take the highest protections that I possibly can on my Roblox account, and yet still have a good chance of getting my account stolen or falsely terminated, that really comes to show how terrible Roblox's security is. And it's something that seriously needs to be addressed if they want to continue growing as a brand. Alright, that's really all I have to say in terms of this video. I tried to take a different approach in this video. Usually when I make these types of videos, I tend to make them very scripted. I usually type out everything I want to say in advance when it comes to making these videos, but recently when I've been trying to do that, all that really does is make me burn out when making these types of videos, and just makes me not want to make the video in the first place. So for this video, what I did instead was I tried a different approach where instead of typing out what I was going to say word for word, I decided to put everything into a bulleted list of all the key points that I was going to be saying throughout the video. So that way when I speak throughout these videos, I can sound a bit more spontaneous, but at the same time, I'm able to keep a lot of organization that I usually will be able to accomplish when I have these scripted videos. There's a lot of stuttering that's going to be happening in this video, and there's just going to be so much footage that I have to edit out. I mean, even just saying that previous line right there, I've already stuttered, and I'm probably going to have to edit that out, so that's going to be a lot of fun. There's probably going to be so much footage I have to edit out. There's probably going to be... And I'm just incredibly tired at this point. I mean... I really don't know why. I just feel demotivated in general whenever I type up something and then start to record a video afterwards. But fortunately, I managed to pull myself through and managed to record this video entirely. So I just need to do all the editing that is needed, and I'll pretty much be good when it comes to this video. But that's all I have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified for any future uploads that I make to this channel. Thank you for watching, and take care.